nobody wants you to allow to be yourself on matters which are absolutely insignificant. I used to have long hairs in my childhood, and I used to come out and in my father's shop, because the shop and the home was connected. Behind the shop was the home. It was absolutely necessary to pass from the shop, and people will ask, whose girl is this? Because my hairs were so big, they could not think that a boy should be having such big hairs. My father felt very ashamed and embarrassed to say that he is a boy. But they said, then why all these hairs? One day, it was not his normal nature. He became so embarrassed and angry that he came and cut my hairs with his own hands, bringing his scissors with which he used to cut cloth in his shop. He cut my hairs. I didn't say anything to him. He was surprised. He said, you don't have to say anything. I said, I will say it in my own way. He said, what do you mean? I said, you will see. And I went to the opium addict barber who used to have a shop just in front of our house. He was the only man I had a respect for. There were a row of barber shops, but I loved that old man. He was a rare variety. And he loved me. Hours we used to talk to each other. It was all nonsense that he was saying. One day he was saying to me that if all the opium addicts can be organized in a political party, we can take over this country. I said, it is a good idea. But he said, because we are all opium addicts, I forget myself, my own idea. I said, you don't be worried. I am here. I will remember. You just tell me what changes you want to have in the country, what kind of political ideology you want. I will manage it. He said, that's good. So I went to him and I told him that just save my whole head completely. In India, the head is saved completely only when your father dies. For a moment, even that opium addict came to his senses. He says, what has happened? Has your father died? I said, don't bother about these things. You do what I am saying. It is none of your concern. You just cut my hairs completely. Save completely. He said, done. He said, that is the easiest job. He shaved my head completely. And I went home, passed from the shop. My father looked, and all his customers looked. He said, what happened? Whose boy is this? His father has died. And my father said, he is my boy and I'm alive. But I knew he is going to do something. He has answered me well. And wherever I went, people will ask, what happened? He was perfectly healthy. I said, people die at any age. You are worried about him, you are not worried about my hairs. That was the last thing my father ever did to me, because he knew that the answer can be more dangerous. On the contrary, he brought a certain oil that is being used for growing hairs. It is a very costly oil, comes from Bengal out of a certain flower, Java Kusum. It is very costly, rare, used only by the richest people, and not by men but by women, to keep the hairs as long as possible. In Bengal, I have come across women whose hair touch the earth. 5 feet long, 6 feet long. That oil simply functions immensely on the hairs. I said, now you understand? He said, I have understood. You use this oil so quickly, in few months you are back with your hairs. I said, you created the whole mess. What was there to be embarrassed? You could have said, she is my girl. I don't have any objection about it. But you should not have interfered me the way you did. It was violent, barbarous. Rather saying anything to me, you simply started cutting my hairs. Nobody allows anybody to be just himself.